Hey guys, first off, ignore the morning voice. I don't normally record in the mornings. But yeah, I wanted to make a quick video to kind of clear up some information online, basically about what the groom job is and how we add fur to objects like t-shirts and stuff, for example, in the Incredibles. The reason for this is because there was recently a post is talking about how they want to see every single fibre on the t-shirt, so they're kind of this broken up silhouette. And I commented to say this is quite an easy task. I just want to clarify that that is not saying that the job is easy. That is just saying that adding fibres to a shirt isn't really an issue. The artists at Pixar are still incredibly skilled, and it's a dream job for many of us, including me. Working at Pixar would be great. I'm just trying to make sure that the praise to the artist there goes to what they've done, which is incredible, which is character design, perfect posing, really nice shaders, like the skin feels just right, and appealing while still being simple. Lots and lots of skill has gone into this. I just want to make sure that people realise this is actually quite simple. So I commented as such. It's got a hell of a lot more attention than I expected, but there's quite a few comments saying, oh well, I don't think that's going to be done in a lunchtime, or oh, the tool does it all for you. And I kind of want to tackle both of those in this video. So I'm going to just drag this over here. So I've not modelled a t-shirt for the sake of this video, so you have to use a little bit of imagination, but we have a little sphere here. This software I'm using is called Maya. This is pretty normally used in the industries of animation and VFX, which is where I work. I currently work in episodic TV, but previously I've worked in kids TV and feature film. Used to work at NPC Film for Groom, which is where I got the experience for. We did films like Lion King, Dumbo, Greatest Showman, all that sort of stuff, and lots of movies. And that's where I learned most of the approach to making fur. Another thing to add is the software for Groom that I'll be using is a tool called Yeti. Now, Groom is a very, very diverse range of tools. Some studios will use their own tool, so Pixar undoubtedly have their own. I think it's built into their primary animation software, which is also proprietary. But then you've got tools like XGen, Shaven Haircut, or Natrix, Groom Boy, and many others. Houdini is a big one. Obviously, Blender has some tools as well. So just to be aware, this is one way of doing it. I just wanted to show kind of how, one way we can do it. And also, if it isn't clear, this video isn't really for CG artists. You guys will already know a fair bit of this, unless you're brand new to the field, in which case, welcome. I hope you're enjoying it so far. But yeah, this is based for general public, so I will keep things very simple. So, just to prove a point, I'm going to throw some fur on this, like what is seen in the Incredibles reference. So, all I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my object that I want to put fuzz on. And in the case of Yeti, I'm just going to create a Yeti node on Mesh. I'm then going to open the Yeti editor. I'm going to import the geometry, which allows Yeti to read whatever object this is. So this could be a character, it can be a dragon, it could be a t-shirt, or it could be a ball in this case. I'm then going to add some points to this. This just puts points on the object where hair will be grown. So I can change this to be whatever density I want. And I can increase this to very high numbers if I want to. But in this case, I'm going to keep it nice and simple. So let's just go 1000. And we then want to grow the hairs. So in Yeti, we do that with a grow node, and that will grow all the hairs out like this. Now, obviously, this looks nothing like the Incredibles t-shirt, so I'm going to keep pushing this. But in theory, this is now fuzz. This is now renderable. It's not quite right, it needs a lot of tweaking, but it's there. So let's close this, and I'm just going to adjust a few things. So minimum length, I want to reduce that just so we get a little bit of length variation. Not every fibre is going to be the exact same length. And then we also want to reduce the overall length. So I'm going to go down to something like this. That might be a little bit too short. Let's just increase that a little bit. That'll do for now. Okay, next thing we notice is that the hair is super chunky. These are really thick hairs, so I'm going to create a node to change the width. In that case, a width node, nice and simple. So this will allow me to control the width of the individual hairs. Now, we can control this in a lot of different ways. Let me just quickly do this, something like that. Yeah, so we can control the width just with these sliders, or we can create textures, so like maps, basically like a black and white image that tells Yeti, what width do we want in certain areas. So I'm just going to reduce that again. So we've got some nice thin fibers now. And then to get it to look a little bit more organic, because currently this is very, very flat looking, kind of boring, I'm going to add Scraggle. Scraggle will kind of bend the fibers in different directions, add a little bit more chaos. So we can do this. And I'll just have to tweak these settings, so I don't want Scraggle at the root. And I want the frequency, let's just multiply that by the length of the hair. Oh, help if I spell it right. Okay, 3 multiplied by length. And then let's check the grow node. Okay, that should be enough. Oh, it needs to be divided by length, sorry. There we go. Okay, so we got some hairs kind of doing this crazy little dance. We can adjust this now, so let's reduce that a bit. Getting a little bit more chaos. Let's make it so that some hairs are less affected than others. And let's make it so it doesn't maintain the length. Okay, so definitely reduce that. And there we go. We got some simple stuff, although I think it might be better if I just find a value. Getting closer. Let's go 16 maybe. 32. There we go, so let's get somewhere. Some of the hairs are being unaffected, I'm not entirely sure why that is. But yeah, so there we go, we got a little bit of fuzz on this. So now, if I just zoom out a little bit, and I hit the magic render button, which isn't what a lot of people think it is in the general public. The render button is just calculating the final image. So it's not going to improve the image necessarily. It's still everything we put in has been done by hand. It's just in the case of things like the light of the environment and kind of any properties of the surfaces are handled by the renderer, but things like the fuzz and the color of the ball and everything else is still done by us. We'll notice this fuzz looks very grey, and that's because the fuzz is missing a shader. So I'm going to add what's called a shader, and these are basically just a way of, sorry, let's just set melanin, controlling the color of the hair. So if I set melanin to 0, and let's increase the roughness a little bit because it's just a shirt fiber, I can now zoom into this, and you'll see we have fuzz once this render cleans up. So it looks too dense at the moment, so I'm just going to grab that Yeti graph editor, and let's just reduce the scatter because there's too many hairs at the moment. Let's go 100 and start another render. And there you go. It really is quite simple. Obviously, more time can be spent on this to make it look just right. We can tweak the shader to let more light through, or set it to whatever color we want. And obviously, the ball itself would need to be textured to look like cloth. However, that isn't the same job as adding fur to the surface. So that is really how easy it is. It's a very quick process, and there's kind of lots of ways to improve on this, but it's there in theory. So the next thing I wanted to talk about though is another set of comments, which is, oh, the tool does everything for you. So the tool does a lot for us. We don't hand place every hair. That would be suicide by work hours, to be honest. There are instances where we do place individual hairs, however that can be very specific. It might be like you're adding 1 or 2 stray hairs that are a certain shape. But I just want to show kind of a setup. How is this not representative of the entire job of Groom? So if we're doing, let's say, a character, obviously we're going to need to style the hair, we're going to need different changes of length, we're going to need it to flow in different directions. The way we can do that is using a system called guides. Now I've got a pre-made scene visible just to kind of show the difference basically. So I'm just going to open my other instance of Maya, and we've got this digitable. So reason I've jumped over to a different scene is just because building a haircut for this video would take a long time. But I just want to show the differences there. So this is using a different tool. This is called XGen. This was created by Disney, and I believe the first movie they ever used it on was Zootopia or Zootropolis, depending where you are in the world. So obviously this is visibly a lot more complex. You got braids and that sort of stuff, but that's not really the point. The point is guide curves. So if I go to the hair at the front here, I can go to hairline, and I click this button. You can see all these curves. Now, these curves are called guides. These are placed by hand. So we go in, we add a curve, and then because I've already got some curves down, it will try to approximate it based on the others, but it's not quite right. So we would have to then go into XGen, just move this button away, and we would then tweak the shape. The first few guides you add, they just stick out from the surface. But luckily in this case, because I've already done quite a lot of guide work, it does a fair bit of it, which is quite nice. Definitely a time saver. But if I was to say add a guide down here, where there's no information, this is what we would get by default. So when we're working on a character, this is what we're given, and we'd need to shape that to be whatever shape we want. So let's just delete that. But yeah, so we've got these guides. All of them have to be hand placed. That's just the nature of them, and these are in essence a individual hair that we have placed, and we're telling the software, hey, when you're making your own hairs, copy the shape of this, copy the shape of this, and any hairs in between, do something like between these, like kind of interpolate it for us. And once we've done guides, if I just turn off all of this, that's only half the battle. So if I place this down, just doing guides means we get something that looks like this. It's very inorganic, like it's incredibly flat, there's no kind of interesting shapes. So the next thing we do is add clumping, where the hairs kind of stick together. So these are already pre-set up. So I've just gone into this, and basically what these will do is again attract hairs in certain areas. So I've painted some maps for this to kind of control it. But if I go into this guy, add that as well. So you can see how we're adding extra layers of detail. Each of these will have these different attribute sets. So the clump scale, I've added some points to create a specific shape. We can do something like this if we want to make the hairs super wide, kind of chaotic. We have controls over the shapes. It's you wouldn't do something like this, but you see the general point. Now it would be great, there we go, if it lets me delete this. There we go. Cool, and then I add the next layer of clumping. So there's 3 layers of clumping in this Groom, just to get all the different kind of sizes of shapes. But even now, we've got all the clumping in there, but it still doesn't look natural. And that's because we have no length variation, which we handle with a cut modifier. And again, all of these values here, this little line of expression, rand, open bracket, 0.0, comma, 0.5, close bracket, times $C length, that is a expression that I've used to control the length of each hair. So it's basically shortening each hair individually, and this expression is telling it how to do that, a random amount based on the length of the hair. We then move on to adding things like frizz, noise. Just this makes the hair feel a little bit drier. So again, without it, it will look like this. Very straight shapes, nothing really interesting happening. Then you add it, and you get just a little bit more chaos. This also has a lot of randomness in it. In this case, I created an expression like this, and this will tell me if hairs are considered stray hairs. It will randomize the stray hairs, the magnitude of the strays, the magnitude of the regular hairs, and that all goes into kind of changing the look of stuff. So if I just go into this guy, he's 0.09, and increase that, the hair's now a lot more chaotic. And I can set this to be whatever number I want. But again, that expression was created by hand. The software doesn't do this stuff for us. So let's do that. Put it back to where it was. And then we add one more noise. Can't remember what this one's used for. I think that one was just breaking up the tips a little bit. But yeah, so that's just one part of this hair, which again is just that bit. We then do the same thing for everything else. So we have the eyelashes, which all have the same information. We create guides, we create different modifiers to affect the hairs directly. We've got eyebrows, which much the same. we create guides, we tell it where we want to put the hairs, and then we add all of this extra information. You've got the braids. So if we go to, where's braid top? There it is. You got braids, which again, much the same. We've got guides, all hand placed, where we create the shape of a braid. Now, there are tricks to doing braids. It's not as, you wouldn't get an individual guide and thread it through. That would take way too long. But you get the general point. There's a lot of work that goes into these. Creatures are much the same. Professionally, during my time in the film industry when I was working in Groom, because these days I work in a department called Look Dev, which is a different thing altogether. It'd be pretty normal for me to spend at least a month on characters, even more in some cases. Obviously, I can't go into how long individual characters took, because that would break my contracts with Disney and Paramount and all those studios. But I hope this kind of clears up some misinformation. If there are any questions, please do let me know. I created this video to clear up misconceptions. The last thing I want to do is create any more. So please do drop me a little message or comment if you are quite unsure about anything quite yet. And yeah, again, if this was a bit rambly, I apologize. I'm not a morning person. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and yeah, and enjoy the rest of it. Bye guys.